The day you turned 62, you crossed an invisible legal line. You quietly moved into a protected category of homeowners that local governments are required by law to treat differently. But nobody whose job it is to collect your property taxes is ever going to call and tell you that. Right now, across the country, there are millions of older Americans paying massive property tax bills they no longer legally owe. They are paying for school districts they are legally exempt from. They are paying on inflated home values that were supposed to be frozen in place. And they are handing over this money every single year, simply because no one ever sat them down and told them to stop. I want to be incredibly clear about this right up front, because it is the single most expensive misunderstanding I see. Turning 62, and in some states 65, triggers specific, powerful legal exemptions on your property tax bill. There are at least 4 different taxes baked into that yearly bill that can vanish, shrink, or freeze entirely the moment you reach that age. But here is the trap that costs seniors thousands of dollars. Being legally exempt from a tax and actually keeping the money in your bank account are 2 completely different things. The county does not lower your bill automatically. The tax assessor does not mail you a letter on your birthday saying you can stop paying. You have to know the specific exemption exists, and you have to file the exact form to claim it. So, if the law says you don't have to pay, why does the county keep sending you the full bill? The reason the county stays completely silent is brutally simple. Your local tax assessor's office is funded by the very taxes they collect from you. Every single dollar they wipe off your bill with a senior exemption is a dollar they don't get to spend next year. They have absolutely zero financial incentive to remind you that you just aged into a major tax break. The system is built to quietly accept your money until you explicitly tell them to stop. My name is Walter Barron. I am an estate attorney, and for over 15 years I have sat across the table from homeowners just like you. I have looked at hundreds of property tax bills, and I can tell you the most painful pattern I see. It is not people trying to cheat the system. It is honest, careful seniors paying a bill they were legally exempt from years ago, simply because they waited for the county to notify them. Your mortgage company is not going to flag this. Your local tax collector is certainly not going to mail you a reminder. You have to be the one to raise your hand and file the paper. If you don't, they will happily let you pay the full maximum amount for the rest of your life. But before I walk you through the exact 4 taxes you can legally wipe out, I need to stop you from making a massive mistake. Because there is one giant lie that talks people out of their own money before they even try. Let me clear up the biggest myth of all, because this is exactly how comfortable retirees talk themselves out of money sitting right there with their name on it. People assume a video about tax exemptions is only for low-income seniors who are really struggling to get by. So, if you own a nice, paid-off home and live on a solid pension, you tune out. You assume you make way too much money for a government break to apply to you. You are dead wrong. And that assumption is costing middle-class homeowners a fortune every single year. In more than half of the states that offer these senior property tax breaks, there is absolutely no income test at all. None. Texas, Florida, Georgia, and several others do not care how much money you have in the bank. They do not care if your house just tripled in value over the last few years. Age is the only qualification that matters. You hit the birthday, you file the form, and you get the exemption. Period. And even in the states that do have an income limit, new legislative changes have quietly pushed those limits far higher than most people realize. A lot of folks who were denied 5 years ago actually qualify today, so do not disqualify yourself at your own kitchen table. Let the form decide. Now that you know you are actually in the running for this money, let's look at the very first tax you can legally wipe off your bill today. Grab your property tax bill and really look at it. It is not just one big monolithic tax. It is a stack of smaller taxes piled on top of each other. And in almost every county in America, the single most expensive line item on that piece of paper is the school district tax. You have paid this tax for decades. You funded the local schools, you did your part, and you paid your fair share. But here is what nobody tells you when you get older. In many jurisdictions, the moment you turn 62, or 65 in some states, you become eligible for a massive senior school tax exemption. This is not the basic homestead exemption you get just for owning the house. This is a separate, targeted piece of paper designed specifically to reduce or completely eliminate the school tax portion of your bill. In Texas, for example, hitting that age knocks a massive additional chunk right off the school tax valuation. In New York, the enhanced senior exemption can wipe out half of the school tax for qualifying homeowners. In other states, older homeowners can become completely exempt from local school taxes entirely, but you have to ask for the form by name. Think about how crazy that is. You are writing a check every single year, funding a massive part of a system that you are legally allowed to opt out of, simply because the county didn't mail you the paperwork. Knocking the school tax down is a huge win, but it doesn't solve the other massive problem keeping seniors awake at night. What happens when your home's value keeps climbing every single year? Let us talk about the silent killer of retirement budgets: skyrocketing property values. If you have lived in your home for 10, 20, or 30 years, your house has likely doubled or even tripled in value. That sounds like fantastic news, until the county tax assessor decides to base your new property tax bill on that wildly inflated number. You are suddenly being penalized for simply sitting in your own living room while your neighborhood gentrifies around you. This brings us to tax target number 2, the senior assessment freeze. And for a lot of you, this is the absolute goldmine on this list. Here is exactly what this form does. When you hit the qualifying age and file the freeze application, the county is legally forced to lock in your home's taxable value at whatever it is that exact year. From that day forward, it does not matter how high real estate prices climb on your street. It does not matter what the remodeled house next door sells for. Your property tax is calculated on that frozen, locked-in number. In some states, your home's market value can triple, but your tax bill is legally forbidden from rising. But here is where the extreme urgency comes in. You must file this form the moment you become eligible. The county locks in the value for the year you apply, not the year you had your birthday. If you wait 3 years to file the paperwork, you are permanently locking in 3 years of expensive inflation that you can never roll back. Every single year you delay is money bleeding out of your savings. That freeze has been around for a while, but there is a brand new expansion to these rules that most accountants do not even know about yet. You clicked on this video because the title mentioned new bill details. Here is exactly what that means for your bank account right now. Across the country, state legislatures have been quietly passing new property tax relief bills aimed squarely at older homeowners. The reason is simple. The housing market exploded, property taxes skyrocketed, and seniors were rapidly being priced out of homes they had owned for decades. Lawmakers realized they had a crisis on their hands, and they started rewriting the rules. In recent legislative sessions, multiple states have drastically expanded who gets these protections. The biggest shift? Lowering the eligibility age. Jurisdictions that used to make you wait until your 65th birthday to claim a senior exemption or an assessment freeze are quietly dropping that threshold down to age 62. They are also aggressively raising the income limits on the specific programs that still have them. That means thousands of middle-class retirees who were just barely over the line a few years ago are suddenly sitting comfortably under it today. This is the power of knowing the rules while everyone else is asleep at the wheel. If you called your local tax office 3 years ago and the clerk told you that you didn't qualify, that information is officially obsolete. The line has moved, the laws have expanded. You have access to a newer, bigger financial shield today than you did yesterday. But nobody is broadcasting this on the evening news. You finally have the upper hand. You know the age has dropped in many places, and you know the limits just surged. But before you march down to the county office, I need to warn you. Here is exactly where people get caught in a dangerous bureaucratic trap that ruins all of this. You might be listening to this, nodding along, and thinking, I already filed the homestead exemption when I bought the house years ago. I am already covered. That right there is the single most dangerous assumption a homeowner over 62 can make. It is what I call the automatic illusion, and it quietly costs people a fortune. When you bought your home, you likely filed a basic homestead exemption. It takes a small chunk of your home's value off the county books. But here is the trap. That basic homestead form does absolutely nothing to trigger your new age-based senior exemptions. The county does not automatically upgrade your tax status the day you hit the qualifying age. The local government's computer system does not politely cross-reference your birth date and magically apply the senior school tax exemption or the assessment freeze to your account. These are completely separate legal protections. They require entirely separate pieces of paper. In some jurisdictions, they are even handled by completely different departments. I have sat across the desk from furious, heartbroken retirees who assumed their regular homestead exemption covered everything. They spent a full decade paying thousands of extra dollars every single year, firmly believing the county had taken care of it automatically. Let me be perfectly clear. The county takes care of nothing automatically. You cannot assume you are protected. You have to verify it. And once you make absolutely sure you are not falling for this automatic trap, you can finally go after the quietest, sneakiest tax hiding at the very bottom of your bill. If you look closely at your property tax bill, past the county tax, past the city tax, and past the school tax, you will usually find a cluster of strange, small fees at the very bottom. These are called special assessments or municipal levies. They are hyper-local taxes designed to fund highly specific projects. A new sewer line, road paving, a mosquito control district, a library expansion, or local flood control. The county quietly tax these micro-taxes onto your bill, assuming nobody will argue over $50 here or $100 there. But when you add them all up, they are a relentless drain on a fixed income. Here is the insider secret the county desperately hopes you never figure out. When local governments pass these special assessments, they frequently bake in a hidden opt-out provision specifically for older homeowners. It is often a political compromise to get the levy passed without angering the senior voting bloc. If you are over 62, or sometimes 65, you can very often file a form with the local municipality to be completely exempted from paying these specific assessments. You can legally refuse to fund the new road paving or the local sewer expansion, but you will never find this opt-out printed on the front of your tax bill. It is buried deep in the municipal code. You have to call the specific local district levying the fee and ask for the senior exemption application. Knocking out these annoying little fees feels incredible, but if you are truly house rich and cash poor, chipping away at the edges of the bill might not be enough to save your retirement. You need the absolute nuclear option. Sometimes, freezing the bill or knocking out the school tax just isn't enough. When inflation is eating your fixed income alive, and property taxes are still draining your monthly budget, you need something much stronger. This brings us to tax target number 4. It is the most powerful, least discussed senior protection in all of property law. I call it the nuclear option. It is the total property tax deferral. In a growing number of states, once you hit the qualifying age, often 62 or 65, and you have lived in your home long enough, you can legally halt your property tax payments entirely. I don't mean lower them, I mean stop paying them, completely. Here is how this incredible program works in plain English. When you are approved for a deferral, you stop writing checks to the county. Instead, the state steps in and pays your property tax bill on your behalf. In exchange, the state quietly places a low-interest lien on your home. That lien just sits there in the background, and it is only paid back when the home is eventually sold, or when it passes to your heirs after you are gone. For a senior homeowner who is house-rich but cash-poor, this is a life-changing paradigm shift. It means you can stay in the home you raised your family in for the rest of your life, without ever having to choose between buying your medicine and paying the tax assessor. You keep your cash flow. And thanks to the new legislative bill details we talked about, the limits for these deferral programs have been pushed significantly higher, meaning thousands of middle-class retirees can now pull this exact lever. You just wiped out the school tax, froze your assessment, canceled the hidden fees, and maybe even deferred the entire bill. Those 4 moves are incredible, but every single one of those protections can vanish overnight if you fall into the most heartbreaking trap in real estate. This is the warning I give to every married couple sitting in my office. I call it the widow's reset, and it is the most heartbreaking trap in the entire property tax system. Let's say you did everything exactly right. You filed the forms, you froze your assessment, you wiped out the school tax, and you are saving thousands of dollars a year. Then, the unthinkable happens. One spouse passes away. In the middle of the grief, the funeral planning, and the absolute chaos of losing your partner, the county quietly does something devastating. In many jurisdictions, those powerful senior exemptions and assessment freezes do not automatically transfer to the surviving spouse. The county computer simply sees that the primary applicant has passed away, and without making a single phone call to warn you, they instantly wipe out all of your tax protections. Your property tax bill resets to the absolute maximum. It jumps by thousands of dollars overnight, in the exact same year your household income was just brutally cut in half. Counties will quietly let that happen and never raise the question, but there is a fix. Most states have a surviving spouse carryover. It allows the widow or widower to keep the deceased spouse's exemptions alive, but you must file a specific piece of paper, usually within a year of the death. Do not let a county pocket your spouse's exemption. Let's see what happens when you do all of this right, using a real person as an example. Let me bring all of this back to the kitchen table with a real person. I will call her Margaret. Margaret was 71 years old, a widow living in a paid-off home that had quietly doubled in value over the last decade. She was getting by mostly on her Social Security and a modest pension. When we sat down and looked at her situation, here is what we found. She was paying the full unfrozen property tax bill on a home that had appreciated for years. She was paying the massive school tax. She was paying 3 separate hidden municipal levies. The county was bleeding her dry, and she was terrified she would have to sell her forever home just to pay the tax assessor. So, we didn't do anything magical. We simply filed the forms. We filed the senior school tax exemption to wipe out the biggest line item on her bill. We filed the senior assessment freeze, legally locking her home's taxable value in place so it could never rise again. And we contacted the local municipal district to file the hidden opt-out for those special assessments. Nothing about Margaret's daily life changed. She did not sell her home. She did not take out a reverse mortgage. The only thing that changed was that thousands of her own dollars stayed in her bank account at the end of the year instead of going to the county. I want you to really hear this. Margaret was not gaming the system. She was simply claiming what she had legally earned over a lifetime of doing everything right. You have seen exactly how this works. Now, here is exactly how you do it for yourself, today. Here is exactly what I want you to do tomorrow morning. Grab a pen and write down this script. Call your county tax assessor's office. When they answer, do not ask them a vague question. Be specific. Say this: I am a homeowner over the age of 62. I want to confirm that my basic homestead exemption is active, and I need the application for the senior school tax exemption and the senior assessment freeze. If they try to brush you off, hold your ground. Ask them for the specific filing deadlines for those forms. Next, ask them if there are any municipal or special assessments on your bill that offer a senior opt-out. Finally, if you are struggling with cash flow, ask them for the state property tax deferral application. You do not need to hire a lawyer to make this phone call. You just need to ask for the forms by name. Now, one quick final warning. This video is general education, not personal legal or tax advice. Every state has slightly different names for these programs and different income rules. Always verify your own situation with your local county office or a trusted professional. But do not let that stop you from picking up the phone. The county will gladly let you overpay until the day you die. Claiming what is legally yours is your responsibility, and nobody else's. If this video opened your eyes, do one thing for me. Send it to one person you know who is over 62. The government is not going to call them, but you can. Subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.